Well, welcome, students. I hope you're doing okay, and I hope you feel like you understand all the concepts. I want to say a couple things before I start this review for your very first test. Number one, I want to mention to you that your grade for this class in the Transitional Studies Department needs to be at a 73% or above. And so what that means for you is on these, there's four tests, I have four exams in my class. You want to be really well prepared and you want to basically shoot for 80s and 90s. And that way you're keeping yourself well above that 73%. But in transitional studies, 73% is kind of the passing rate. Okay. Second thing I want to mention to you is if you have any questions about anything you're about to hear or have been hearing, shoot me a quick email. Be really specific. Let me know exactly the type of problem it is, and I will answer that. And make sure that you understand how to do that. And then also at the very end of this video, I'm going to actually take you into Canvas, show you how to open the test, show you what it looks like, and that way you'll feel like you understand what you're doing, okay? And finally, it'll be a 2-hour test. So you'll be, if it worked correctly when I set it up, you'll have 2 hours to complete it. Most of you should complete it in about an hour, some less, okay? All right, let's jump into things and talk about some of the concepts I have on the screen here. So this is my review on angles, and the test will be only on angles, and it'll only be on what we have been discussing in this course, okay? All right, let's do a review question here. So the first thing I want you to do is stop the video, pause it, and write down everything you see on the screen, and then I will continue. All right, we will start. Okay, the question number one here, the first one on the left says, write the name of each angle below. Example, you would write angle ABC here. So let me circle this here so you can see what I'm looking at. So that's what you would do to write the symbol. I'm trying to make that really clear to you that you would write this correct symbol for this, okay? So for instance, look at this first one here, this first angle here, which is, remember how we say angles? We'd say MKL or LKM, but always keep the vertex in the middle, okay? So can you figure out what you would write there in that space? Okay, for the first one, what would the symbol be? Okay, well, it's going to look like this, symbol, and we can say MK, keeping the vertex in the middle, and L, okay? All right, so that's how we would do that first one. Let's look at the next example here. I'm going to draw an arrow here pointing to what I'm talking about here on the screen, okay? Look at that and see if you can draw the symbol. Give you a couple seconds, right? What would you draw as a symbol if you were answering this? All right, here's what I would write. Symbols, I mean the angle symbol like this, and angle D. It's that simple, okay? That's angle D here. So we're talking about this one right below here, okay? Look at this next one on the far right. The symbol for that would be, go ahead, you can write it down. There it is, angle C. Okay, so if asked to choose the correct symbol for something, that's how you would do it. Make sure if you have 3 letters that you keep that vertex in the middle, okay? All right, below here in the bottom left, it says, what type of angle are the following angles? And I give you 5 choices. Acute, which remember are angles that are less than, they're greater than 0, but less than 90 degrees, okay? Right angles are the ones that are straight up and down. They're perpendicular to each other. Is another vocabulary word for geometry. And they're 90 degrees, and they're called right angles. Then there's an obtuse angle, which is greater than 90, but less than 180. And then there's a straight angle, which is just a straight line, and a reflex angle, which is greater than 180, but less than 360, okay? All right, so can you look at this first angle here? We got angle CDE on the top left here of these examples. I'll draw an arrow pointing towards what we're talking about, okay? What type of angle is that? Okay, you're probably right. That's a straight angle. Okay, that's a fairly easy one. Let's move over to the right here. Angle KJI. Okay, sounds like a radio station. This is KJI FM radio. What type of angle is that? Acute, right, obtuse, straight, or reflex? Okay, and if you guessed right angle or a 90-degree angle, but in this case we're calling it a right, that is correct. Look at this third example here that I'm drawing an arrow towards. What type of angle is that? And if you're thinking, okay, it's not acute, it's bigger, it's not just cute or little, if it's bigger than 90 degrees, so it's obtuse, that is correct. Another example here, I'm drawing an arrow towards LMN, angle LMN, and I'm going to clarify something here, okay, which you want to do here. I'm going to draw a little circle here like this, okay? All right, so that's my little arrow indicating where the actual angle is. If you're thinking that's got to be a reflex angle, it's greater than 180, but it's less than 360. That's the correct answer. And then finally, I'm just going to draw it, just fill this in with an arrow, just to be really clear what we're talking about here. Angle POQ is an acute angle. Okay, so that's a quick review of some of the angles. Let's move on to the next concept, which is measures of angles. Okay, we take a look at the measures of these angles. Could you tell me what the measure of the angles are? Let's take a look at the one in the top left-hand corner. And what would you say? Let's say this is angle A. We'll put a title here. This is angle A. Okay. It equals, here's my angle symbol. What would you say is the angle for this first one here at the top left? Well, this is where you need to be careful looking at a protractor, as I mentioned way back in lesson 1. You see how there's two sets of numbers? There's the ones that are run below, okay, here where my arrow is, and then there's the ones that run above, okay? And so you have to be careful which one we're looking at. We'll look at the red lines, okay, of my angle. That is, if I start at 0 and go to 10, 20, 30, 40, 45, 50, it seems like it's right between 40 and 50, so it's 45 degrees. So I would say it's 45 degrees, okay? And the reason I said to be careful is some people might have looked at the 130 above and the 140 and thought, oh, this is 135 degrees. No, this is the angle that we're talking about here, okay? This is the degrees, okay? Now, speaking of looking at angles, we've got another one here, and I'm going to draw on it where we're actually measuring here, okay, the actual angle that we're looking at. You'll see that this is more than 90 degrees, okay? So if a student was confused, they might look up at the top and go, oh, this is a 50-degree angle. Well, that would be because they would be looking at this 50 right here, okay? But that's not actually, we're not measuring the short angle. We're measuring the distance all the way from 0 all the way to here. So you probably guessed, if you look again, that's 130. So we'll call this just the angle equals 130 degrees, okay? And there you go. All right, next one. If you look at the bottom left, can you tell me what the measure of this angle is? The angle equals, what would you say? Okay. And I will fill in, just to be crystal clear here, what part we're measuring. Okay. And so that looks like 60, 70, 80, right on the 80. So I'm going to say it's 80 degrees. Okay. All right. And then the last one, if you look at the last one here, if we look at this last angle here on the bottom right, what would you say? And I'm again going to fill in with my little arrow here to make it really clear what the angle is that's being measured. This is, it looks like 20 degrees. Okay. All right. Just a little review of measuring angles. Moving on to the next concept. All right. All right. Now you remember when we taught you in the lesson or so before about different kinds of of angles, and we talked about complementary angles here. The two complementary angles, they complement each other because they add up to 90 degrees, okay? So let's look at the first example. I've got it in purple on the screen. What is the measure of an angle CDE below, okay? So I look at my screen. Here is C, here's D, and here's E. So they're asking us for is this angle right here, okay? How would we figure out two complementary angles? They're complementing each other at 90 degrees, right? So what's the math that we would do? We would take 90, which is what they add up to if they're complementary. We've got a 34 already. Take the 34 degrees, and we would subtract these two, okay? And then we just do the math, and I will do it real fast here. 6, 5, 56 degrees, okay? So that would be my answer, is that DC, or CDE, excuse me, is 56 degrees, okay? Can you do the next one? What is the measure of angle TUV, tub, below, okay? And I'm looking at T, U, and V. Okay, they're asking for the complementary angle to 25. So the math would be 90 degrees, right? They're complement each other. 90 degrees minus 25 degrees, okay? And I'm just going to do the math long ways for you just to illustrate how you can do this by yourself. 5 and 8, 7, 65 degrees, okay? So this angle, TUV, is 65 degrees, all right? All right. Now we've got a question in the bottom left of the screen. It just says, what's the complement of 72 degrees? Complement. Oh, that's the other angle that adds up to 90. Well, I'll just do it right above it here. I'll just do the math. 90 minus 72, 8 crosses out. That makes this an 8 and a 1, 18 degrees. There's my answer, okay, 18 degrees. Now look at the next question. What is the supplement? Oh, okay, here's the different word. Supplement of 142 degrees, okay? Well, supplements add up to what? 180. Complements add up to, they complement each other to 190, but supplements 180. So I'm going to take 180 and I'm going to subtract 142, and that's going to give me my answer. Okay, so that's how you would complete that task, is go 8, 3, 0. It's 38 degrees. Okay, that is my complement. I'm sorry, my supplement, because supplements add up to 180. All right, we're going to go on to the next slide for review here. And this is asking us, all right, to figure out some angles. And I want to review real quickly. Do you remember that vertical angles, okay, they're the opposite when you have two lines that cross each other, okay, like we have here. Vertical angles are opposite and they're equal, right? So that's how we can start figuring out all kinds of measurements. Okay, angle A. Okay, well, first of all, the first angle we were given is 55 degrees. That means the vertical, when two lines cross, the vertical is going to be 55 degrees. Okay, so I can say that B's got to be 55. Now that I know that, can you tell me what angle A is? We just did the exact same math. I'm going to give you a hint. If I draw a line down the middle here, I want you to forget about everything below that line and just think of it as just A and B here. And so there's nothing else on the screen, imagine. Okay, there's just angle A and B there. What would we do? Okay, how do we figure out what A is? Okay, those two are what to each other? Are they complementary or are they supplementary? They're supplementary because they add up to 180. So the math would be 180 minus 55, okay? And for the sake of time, so I make my video shorter, I'm just gonna skip doing the math and move on real fast. All right, the next one. In the figure below, label each angle with its measure. Note A is parallel to B. All right. if A and B lines are parallel, that means, and we're given 60 degrees, that means the vertical angle, okay? And the question actually asks you to label, okay? I'm going to box around this label and each angle with this, and then give its measure with its measure, okay? So what I would need to do here is, let's say we want to call this first one angle A, okay? And let's call this angle up here B. We'll call this C, this D. That's what it means by label. We're giving it a label. This is E. Look at all these angles, by the way. There are F, G, and H. And H, okay? So all I did is I gave each angle a label. All right. Now, we know, because we learned this in the last lesson, that angles that are vertical from each other, like 60 and C, there on the screen, 60 and C, or angle A and C, they're vertical, they're equal, okay? So we also learned that when we have two parallel lines and then we have a transversal, which is this line that goes crossing through them, with two parallel lines and a transversal, we know that all of the acute angles, those are the ones less than 90, are equal. They're all equal, okay? And we know that all the obtuse angles are also equal. So therefore, we can look at this and we can do the math and figure out what all of these equal, okay? So I'm just going to start writing for you on the screen how I would say C, angle C, excuse me, like this equals, well, it's the same as the one that's vertical from it, or its vertex, so it's going to be 60, okay, degrees. Angle B, let's just go on to all the ones that are the acute first, okay? Angle C, oops, we just did that one. Angle G, say this one here, angle G, excuse me, G equals 60, okay? We know that. That means F, angle F equals 60. All right, so we've got four angles that are all 60 degrees, okay? And angle A is already given at 60 degrees. All right, now, if you're kind of thinking about it logically, I'm going to change the color of my pen real fast here. All we have to do is figure out what B is, and then we know what all the other ones are, okay? Well, look at angle B and look at angle A. Can you figure out how to figure out B? If we're just looking at A and B, we know that they are supplements of each other, not vitamins, but supplementary to each other. Supplements add up to 180. So I can go 180 minus 60, and this pen is really not cooperating, and gives myself 20 degrees, right? No, to 120 degrees. Okay. So what that tells me is that angle B equals, okay, 120 degrees. And you can do all the rest, okay? That means D is 120. That means H and E are 120. You can do all the rest. All right, for the sake of time, I'm trying to keep this as brief as possible. I'm going to move on to my next slide, okay? All right, that being said, maybe that's about it. Oh, okay. All right, I think that is about it. That's all my content. So now, before you leave, I promised you I wanted to show you actually how to do the test. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my sharing here and share your screen. Do you want to do? Yes, I'm going to continue. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you when you open up my class in Canvas, it's going to look something like this. Okay. And what you've got week one, and you've already seen from my introductory video, my quick start guide, how to proceed through all this. But at the end of the first 2 weeks is an angles test. Okay. And so this is what it's going to look like for you. You're going to click on it, and then let me see if I can expand this to the whole screen here. Is that going to work? Yes. Okay. Um, doesn't seem to be working too well. Let's see here. Da, da, da. Okay, this is giving me my teacher view here. What I'm going to do is see if I can give you a student view. What it's going to do is, yeah, there it is. Okay, view as a student. Should be able to now click on this, view as a student. There we go, angles test, and it's loading. They're all going to be multiple choice. You'll have 2 hours to complete it. And the directions are pretty clear. All you're going to do is be selecting A, B, C, or D when it happens, okay? So look at each picture carefully. You may use a calculator. Yes, you can use a calculator. You have 2 hours to complete the test. And this says no time limit, but I'm hoping that it'll actually put up a time limit. Um, Now, I'm just curious if it'll actually take me to the quiz. No, I think it's taking me somewhere else. Um, anyway, it'll be really easy for you to see when once it opens up. You'll be able to understand how to do the test, but that's at least how to find it. Okay, here it is. Good. It popped up for me. Took it a little while to arrive. So, like question one, below is a picture of an angle. Choose the correct symbol for the angle from the choices below. And you would look at this, and this correct symbol is asking for the symbol. You would choose the correct symbol, either the first choice, second choice, third, or fourth choice. But that's what you do. That's what the test looks like. Okay. You're going to look at the directions. It's going to ask you to do something, and you make a selection here. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop sharing that and come back to this. And just again, I want to close out by saying, please do not take the exam until you've gone through all of my practice review. You got your questions answered. You feel confident. You know what you're doing, and you should do just fine. We've prepared you well. We've gone through every concept. I haven't skipped anything, and hopefully you'll do well. And your goal is to try to achieve 80 or 90%. Thanks for watching.